Listen, I already told her if it's gonna get that wet, I don't want it on the couch. She can't always— Oh, hi there! Guess who? It's me, Toiley Tea Paper, and welcome to another episode of Potty Time Story Time. Today we're going to read another story out of the Frog and Toad Treasury by Arnold Lobel. So sit back, relax, and don't pop a blood vessel straining too hard. Here is today's story. The story by Arnold Lobel. One day in summer, Frog was not feeling well. Toad said, "Frog, you're looking quite green." "But I'm always green," said Frog. "I'm a frog. Good night, everybody. I'll be here all week." "Today you look very green, even for a frog," said Toad. "Get into my bed and rest." Whoa, slow down there, Toad. Toad made Frog a cup of hot tea. Is anyone else getting a weird Bill Cosby vibe about this whole thing? Frog drank the tea, big mistake, and then he said, "Tell me a story while I am resting." "All right," said Toad. "Let me think of a story to tell you." Toad thought and thought, but he could not think of a story to tell Frog. That's because Toad was a dum-dum. "I will go out on the front porch and walk up and down," said Toad. "Perhaps that will help me think of a story." Boy, this Toad's got the procrastination skills of a novelist. Toad walked up and down on the porch for a long time, but he could not think of a story to tell Frog. Is Frog naked in Toad's bed? Anyway, then Toad went into the house and stood on his head. "Why are you standing on your head?" asked Frog. "I hope that if I stand on my head, it will help me to think of a story," said Toad. I'm beginning to think that Toad would not be very good at a crisis situation. Imagine if Frog was choking. "Well, I guess I better go stand on my head." Toad stood on his head for a long time, but he could not think of a story to tell Frog, which is impressive because all the blood rushing to his brain, you'd think he would have thought of something. Then Toad poured a glass of water over his head. "Why are you pouring water over your head?" asked Frog. "I hope that if I pour water over my head, it will help me think of a story," said Toad. Toad poured many glasses of water over his head, but he could not think of a story to tell Frog. Someone needs to get Toad his medication. Then Toad began to bang his head against the wall. "Why are you banging your head against the wall?" asked Frog. "I hope that if I bang my head against the wall hard enough, it will help me think of a story," said Toad. Yeah, I think it's time for Frog to get dressed and slowly back out of the house. "I'm feeling much better now, Toad," said Frog. "I don't think I need a story anymore, if it's going to be this difficult on you." "Then you get out of bed and let me get into it," said Toad, "because now I feel terrible." Frog said, "Would you like me to tell you a story, Toad?" "Yes," said Toad, "if you know one." "Once upon a time," said Frog, "there were two good friends, a frog and a toad." Uh-oh, a story inside a story? What is this, Inception? The frog was not feeling well. He asked his friend the toad to tell him a story. The toad could not think of a story. He walked up and down on the porch, but he could not think of a story. He stood on his head, but he could not think of a story. Uh-oh, I'm beginning to see where this is headed. He poured a glass of water over his head, but he could not think of a story. He banged his head against the wall, but he could not think of a story. Then the toad did not feel so well, 'cause he was an idiot. And the frog was feeling better to know that he was the smarter of the two. So the toad went to bed, and the frog got up and told him a story. The end. "How was that, Toad?" said Frog. But Toad did not answer, because he had fallen asleep, because the story was fucking boring. The end. Wait a minute. Did the author just get us to read the same exact story twice in a row? Son of a bitch. Well, that's going to do it for this time. We'll see you next time right here on Potty Time Story Time. Be sure to flush. No, get it off the couch. Hey, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment below telling me what story you'd like me to read next.